Hello everyone out there on YouTube. I just wanted to give you a brief, or maybe not so brief, rundown of the Hot Blast 1557M stove that I have installed. Because looking in some research on these guys, either people love them or they hate them. Come to find out the people that hate them never really learned how to use them. And there are some modifications you can make to these things that will really improve the output and the efficiency of them. So this may help some people, maybe not. I don't really know. Maybe it'll give some suggestions to some of the people that are looking to install them, some better ideas and so on. So I'll give you a quick rundown of what I did and how it works. So starting with the damping system on the stove, if you notice, I took off the panel that had the Hot Blast dampering system on it. The reason why I did this is because it's really not efficient for the stove whatsoever. You either open the door or you close it all the way down, and depending on how you load this thing, it will greatly affect your burn time immensely. So looking around the internet and so on, I've seen so many crazy things done to these stoves. I mean, I've seen someone who actually used like an air intake off of a car with solenoids and fans and blowers, and just makes this thing so complicated when it really doesn't have to be. So there's a company out there called Thermal Control, and this company makes a whole bunch of different stoves as well. But they have a dampering system that is simply awesome that I adapted to this stove. And it's really a very simple item to put on if you just decide to do this. So the box that you see in the front, all it really is a automatic damper that has a mechanical spring inside that works off of the heat of the stove. So basically you set this at, say, maybe 300, 350 degrees. If the stove gets hotter than that, it closes down the air automatically. As it cools down, it opens up and brings the temperature back up at the stove. Very, very simple, very safe apparatus to put on this stove, because it'll definitely keep it from overfiring if you don't know what you're doing. So I highly recommend looking into this. The part itself is about a $120 item to put on. It will give you crazy burn times. I'm talking north of 10 to 12, even 14 hours on a full load of nice seasoned wood. Definitely the way to go with these stoves. And a little bit later on, I'll explain some of the woods that I'm using, by the way, too. And burning coal in it, because I've burned pretty much everything successful. So that's the first major change that I made for this stove. The second one I'm going to show you on the back here. When you purchase the stove, it's going to come with a thermal type of disc that will work the fan blowers. Again, not very efficient. I've even had some times where the stove was cooling down and the fans are basically clicking on and off every less than, I'd say, 10 seconds, just driving me nuts. So I would definitely tell you, get rid of that. Honeywell makes this really good limit switch, high limit switch. The model is 43200. You can pick this thing up for about 65 bucks. Install it in the stove, set your temperatures for the kick on and kick off. Makes it so much more efficient. Definite must have. Switch it over. Telling you, make a world of difference for you. Coming down a little bit more, you're going to notice that I put a switch here. And if you look a little bit to the right, you're going to see like an aluminum plate that's just sticking up. The reason why I did this is I have a 3,000 square foot house that this is heating without my garage. So pretty big house. What I've noticed is the way I have it set up, with the double blowers, when they're burning, you actually get too much air upstairs in the bedrooms and so on. So I burn pretty much all season long using one blower. And to do it right, you have to put some sort of a way to block the secondary blower that's on this. So when I push that sheet metal down, I'm actually closing off the outlet of where the blower is on the unit. The switch to the left allows me to decide which blower I'm going to use, both of them or just the left. So On the really, really cold days, if I want to heat the house up very fast for whatever the reason may be, I pull that sheet metal up, I put the switch on number 2, and both blowers will run. Again, I only use it for a short period of time, and that's pretty much it. So another tip maybe, I don't know how big your houses are, or if you get too much air, too little air, but that's a good way to safely cut it down to one blower if you need. The filter on here, pretty interesting. And I'll show you I have a spare too. This is a washable filter. The reason why I went with this is because I like to change this thing pretty much religiously every three weeks during the prime season. And I like to use a good quality filter. So to buy them from Home Depot, Lowe's, or any of the big box stores, you're going to spend on an average about 15-20 bucks anyway. So this type of filter that's on here, it only cost me 20 bucks. I have 2 of them that I just wash and put back. So, you know, when one is drying, the other one is in the stove. Very simple, works great. Highly recommend it. Up on the top here, we do have a damping barometric pressure damper. This here, you know, I read a lot about people that put them in or don't use them, or, you know, don't need them, a whole bunch of stuff. So, you know, again, I can't tell you right or wrong for your particular apparatus. What I can tell you is, what I find for me, it is definitely something, if you plan on using coal in this thing, it's a must-have. Another thing that I've noticed since I've installed it, a little bit longer wood times, for especially during those windy days where it's not really sucking the air through the stove, burning the wood faster than it needs to be. So again, you know, depending on the size of your chimney, the height, and so on, do you need it? Do you not need it? You know, maybe look into it a little bit. I burned the first season without it, and I was averaging maybe about 6 to 8 hour burn time. Since I put this in, I get north of, you know, average 12 hours. I mean, sometimes 14, but again, we'll talk a little bit about the wood and what you put in these things on how long you'll get as far as burn times go. Another thing that I did here, pretty interesting, is I have these zone valves. So if you look up the top here without the light reflecting, these are automatic zone valves. They work on thermostats throughout the house. So I really have 4 zones here. The other one that you see here to the left that does not have one has it further into the garage, which I made a dump zone, and it also feeds the bedrooms. The reason why I did this is because once I fire this up, the blower will run constantly. The reason why I want this to do this is it will definitely keep the stove from overheating or overfiring. So in conjunction with that damper box that I showed you from Thermal Controls, with the fan running, this is a very, very safe stove to operate. These zone valves will open and close so I don't overheat the upstairs or any of the rooms for that matter. I can set the temperatures of whatever I want and it'll maintain it. The dump zone is just what it is. It's basically gives me some heat in the garage. So I guess you could say this is an extra bonus of this setup. And I'll see if maybe towards the end I'll go into the garage and show you what that looks like. But it's basically 2 of these units in a Y. And when the bedroom that's above the garage calls for heat, it closes the dump zone, opening up the vent in the bedroom. And when it reaches its temperature, it will close the zone in the bedroom, opening up the dump zone back into the garage. That's all it does. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about how to burn wood first. And a lot of people struggle with this. And I will tell you, 90% of the people that give up on it, give up because they're not burning seasoned wood. And that's the whole secret behind this. If you're going to burn a wet wood, you're going to struggle. So they do make these moisture sensors that you can try to regulate the moisture capacity of the wood. I definitely would say if you're going to, you know, burn wood, you should have one of them. They say anything below 20% is a good burn ratio for moisture on wood. I like 15 or below. So that's one thing that I can tell you if you're going to burn wood. The second thing, how do you get long burn times? And you know, again, I see a lot of frustration with these things on how to burn, you know, 10, 12 hours and so on. It's not really a secret. It's more of you need to take the time to burn, your woods correctly. And it's really a science. I mean, you will spend months sometimes trying to figure this out. So the first tip I can give you, dry wood, okay? The second tip, bigger pieces are better. The third tip I'm going to show you over here, I do a combination of wood blocks. So this is my wood block that I use. I pick them up at local Tractor Supply. There are 3-packs. If you get them during the off season, you can get these pretty cheap, relatively cheap. Probably, I'd say, less than $3 for a pack. You only need maybe a ton that will get you through the entire season. The reason is I'll take maybe 3 to 4 of them, put it in here, especially at night when I want the longer burn time, and then I'll load it up with my wood on top of it and all around it. Using that type of system, you will get, I'm telling you, ridiculous burn times out of the stove. And again, I'm burning a dry block and I'm burning dry wood. I like my wood to be, at least in diameter, maybe about minimal 6 inches, realistically 8. Bigger pieces of wood burn longer. With the thermal control box in the front, it will damper it and give it more air as needed. So it will maintain a temperature, I like, around 350 degrees. And, it'll burn all night long without a single, worry or problem. I'll get up in the morning. A lot of times they'll still have some fire in there on some of the bigger pieces of wood. But for the most part, red hot ash, throw a couple more pieces in there, fire the thing back up, and you're good again for another 10, 12 hours. So very, very easy. The bottom air control, I do leave that open maybe about 1 full turn. The reason why I do that is the damper that's on here from thermal control does close the air completely. So if I was to let it close it completely without having some other way to get air in there, it would actually smother the fire completely out. So leaving that bottom door open, leaving that air valve open on the bottom 1 full turn, it'll allow it to have a very small flame in there, enough that it will maintain a temperature or a fire in there so that when that damper opens, that it needs more heat, the flame comes right up 1, 2, 3. Very easy. So that's wood burning in this thing. Now let's talk about coal. Okay, I spent a full year burning coal last year in here. I will tell you, there's really no benefit of burning wood over coal or coal over wood in the stove. It's really how much ash you want to deal with. That's really the whole secret here. So coal, I'll show you my choice of coal that I use, and I went through quite a number of different ones. So I'm using a anthracite nut coal. Again, this is a Tractor Supply product, but you can get it through other places as well. The secret with burning coal is you need to have no air at all given to the fire at the top. So that means you need to shut this down, this thermal control, or if you're going to use the existing hot blast damper, it has to be off completely. The bottom door, now this is where, again, it depends on the size of your chimney. The bottom door, you need to have as much air possible in this thing as you possibly can get. So without doing blowers and all that stuff, which I really think are unsafe, if you're going to melt down the whole unit, it's just not safe. Don't use blowers. You don't need them. I'm telling you, in all honesty, and I've gotten this down to a science at this point, if you leave that door wide open on the bottom and you damper or actually shake out the coals at least twice a day, you can burn coal in this thing very successful. You do need to have a very hot bed of ash in here first before you throw the coal in. That is something that I think a lot of people fail to do. So get yourself a really good hot bed of coals, whether you want to start it with wood or any other way that you want to do it. Start the thing with some real hot coals in there before you start layering your coal. And you got to layer it in different sessions. You can't just dump a whole 40-pound bag of coal in there. It'll smother, it'll go out, and you're done. So with that said, it takes me about a solid half an hour to put coal in this stove when I do it. I don't have the stove running right now because I'm actually making this video in the middle of August and it's 90 degrees out. So I probably will follow up with another video later in the season when I start firing this up. But this year I'm planning on using more wood than coal. The only reason why I'm choosing to do that is, believe it or not, you get a lot more ash with coal. If you burn dry wood, the ash is minimal. So again, that's just my taking of it. I'm sure there's people out there that will dispute that, but again, everybody has their own opinion and what works and doesn't work for them. So this year, like I said, I'm going to run full wood, and where I live, wood is dirt cheap. I mean, I don't swing an axe, I don't cut it. I'd rather have it delivered, and they deliver it for ridiculously low prices. There's no reason for me to go cut a tree and split it myself. So back on coal, another thing that I can tell you is you do need to close down the flue damper here, which is actually in a closed position. And, a lot of people are afraid to close this thing completely because they think that it smothers it. But if you ever see what these things look like, there's two small or medium-sized holes that are in the middle of this thing that allows just enough air to go through. So burning coal, if you get the fire going really good and you have a nice blue flame in there, the last thing you do is shut this completely here, and again, the system will take care of itself. The best I get on coal, about 14 hours burning on this stove. So again, it depends what you want to do with it. I don't see any benefit for burning coal from me right now because wood is so cheap, and I get the same burn times out of wood. So with that said, this is my install. This is how I have it hooked up. And again, I'm sure people have different opinions, but this is one way you can do this. And I'll tell you the modifications on this that I made between the thermal control box in the front, that high limit switch in the back here, hooking up these switches for the fan blowers, and the barometric pressure. I'm into this for less than $300. I'll be real honest with you, and very, very safe. It will never overfire. You'll never have a chimney fire if you keep it the creosote low by not burning wet wood. It's really a safe stove if you do it right. Patience is the biggest thing I can tell you, because again, different woods burn differently, different coal burns differently, and so many people get frustrated because it's like they're blaming the stove. Meanwhile, they're burning wood that's 30% wet content. There's so much stuff out there that's ridiculous that I watch on these videos for this type of stove. Do it right. The stove is a great add-on. You can have minimal bills as far as fuel go for your house if you hook this thing up right. And I'll tell you, it is definitely underrated because, again, this stove is supposed to be for a 2,500 square foot house. I'm over 3,000 without the garage, and I'll tell you, comes the dead of winter when it's in the teens or single digits outside, I got the windows open in the house because it's that hot. So you can very easily heat a 5,000 square foot house with this thing, and that's no joke. So, all right, everybody on YouTube, hopefully this helps. Feel free to leave comments down below. Let me know what you think. Again, no question is a dumb question. If I can help you in any way, I'll try to answer. And go from there. And like I said, give me thumbs up if you think you like it, don't like it, what you like to change, what you like as far as what I did on it. Feedback is always welcome. Thanks all.